Hello. Thank you all for having me. That was such a nice introduction. And I love just being able to enjoy the music before coming on tonight. And that's like, it's like, let's just take a deep breath and I'll just kind of settle for a minute in everything that's going on with the stress of life and going into finals and setting up for going home or traveling or wherever you may end up for the holidays or over this long winter break, which actually it's going to be like a summer break, only in the winter. And that's kind of what I'm here to talk to you all about today is how to take care of yourself over this time and how to access resources. Going back home sometimes and going into those old environments can be exciting and can also bring on a lot of stress, and it's easy to get into old patterns. And what I would say, one of the most important tips as you're traveling to a different location or setting up life in a different location for these next couple months is to really try to keep a routine. That's one of the best things for your mental health. Try to keep on a good sleep cycle. Try to have a purpose with each day. Since you may not have kind of the school hanging over your head or a job or different things that you have to get up for, it's easy to get lazy and sleep in and overindulge in food and kind of get your system sort of out of whack, which also affects your mental health. So at least trying to do little things, doing something with a purpose each day, sunshine, eating good food, all that kind of stuff is really important to stay on track. But if things do start to slip or you feel like you need some more support, I'm really happy to share with y'all about the Emory Anytime Health. Emory has really worked hard in the pandemic to create services that all students can access. One of the biggest challenges that we faced when all this started back in March was that everyone traveled home to different states, and many of the clinicians at CAPS are not licensed to practice in different states. And so Emory has been really intentional about how do we give you guys the support no matter where you are, even if you're an international student. And so they contracted with a company called Timely MD. That we've sort of renamed it as Emory Anytime Health, and it is a free service to all enrolled Emory students. How you access this service is very easy. If you go to the CAPS website, one of the first things you'll see is the Emory Anytime Health, and you can click on that and go right into the site. And what this site is going to offer you, you'll sign in using your Emory email address, and you will actually have 3 separate services. One is medical. So just remember that if you need to go to the doctor, if you need a medical appointment, you can access that through this telehealth platform free of charge, just like if you were to go to student health. The second option that's going to come up is called Talk Now, and that's a 24-hour access to a counselor for support that you can log in. This is like an app that you can put on your phone or log in through your computer and talk with a counselor right then. Then the third option is scheduled counseling, and that's more of the if you want to really get set up with a counselor to see regularly. So you would go in, put in your location, and see a list of all different providers that are in that area and schedule directly with them for free counseling, 12 sessions, no matter where you are. So we've really tried to roll this out, and hopefully the message has gotten to a lot of students, but if not, share it with your friends. Because it's a free service that Emory wants everyone to have access to health care over this break and for the next couple years as we're dealing with this pandemic and things just aren't back to normal like we'd like them to be, but hopefully soon. Also, just so you know, CAPS we're working regular hours other than that week and a half right over the sort of the Christmas holiday that Emory is officially closed, we're available over the break. So you can always call us during business hours, Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5, speak with the on-call counselor if you have questions, or if you want us to help you access resources that are in your area. We have different internet platforms to help find counselors where you are. One is called Thriving Campus, which we contract with them as well. It's kind of like a database for college counseling centers. Different universities all over the nation use them, and it's sort of those vetted counselors that we regularly refer to. And then there's always all the helplines, the suicide hotlines. There's a text line. All that is on the CAPS website. Our website is kept up to date very, very regularly and is very comprehensive, has many FAQs, things that you may want to know about that you can click on that can answer a lot of your questions. But when in doubt, just reach out to us and we can help you get connected. So I hope you all travel safe, that everyone takes care of themselves over this break. And are there any questions or anything specific that anyone would like to ask that I didn't cover? Okay. Well, CAPS is here for you, and happy holidays, happy winter break, and we'll see you back in January.
Thank you so much, Courtney. It was great to have you. And I want to remind everyone how in one of our previous IV3D events, we talked about mental health and how, yes, prayer is a good thing, connecting with Christian community is a great thing. And in addition to that, sometimes getting professional help can be a big bonus and be part of how God leads us through the valleys. So I highly encourage you to take advantage of CAPS. If it is even a thought of maybe something you might want to do because you're kind of dealing with struggles. Like, you don't have to be bad enough. I'm sure Courtney would corroborate that. Yeah, you don't have to be like really struggling.
Suicidal to come to CAPS. People come for all kinds of reasons, dealing with stress, dealing with family issues, worried about a friend. We're there also for consultation. If you have a friend that you're worried about and you're like, how do I handle this? What do I do? Call and talk to us. We're there for those kinds of things as well.
Yes, absolutely. And I did not go to Emory, but I highly benefited from the school counseling center from my college. And so I can recommend that as well. Thank you so much, Courtney. We are so glad to have you. And I hope you have a blessed night.
Thank you, you too. Bye.
All right. So everyone, again, thank you for being here. And as we transition into our next guest speaker or testimony sharer, Natalie, do you have the bio for that? If you don't, then I can pull it up real quickly. But
hang on, let me click on it real fast.
All right, Christie, I'm gonna spotlight your video.
Okay, so Christie is Melody's friend from college, and she served with the staff of Manna Christian Fellowship at Princeton from 2017 to 2018. She currently works as a manager at Indigo Ag. It's an agricultural tech startup, and she has also worked in consulting. Christie is currently living at home with her parents and her brother, who is a sophomore at UNC, and she's living in suburban North Carolina. And she's very excited to be with us today to share a little bit about her experiences moving back home.
Hi, everyone. Right. So first of all, I will say just thank you all for having me here. You're just having a stranger talk to you, so I appreciate you giving me part of your Thursday evening. I don't know kind of like what year in college you're in. I heard from Melody that some of you may have been stuck at home this whole time. Some of you may just be moving home after being on campus for a while. But, you know, I think regardless, this is a really difficult semester, right? I personally can't imagine, you know, going through college during the season of COVID. So just know that that's difficult and know that it's understandable, just all of the frustrations and disappointments you may have at this time. But I think I relate in some ways. So I first moved away from home junior year of high school, so almost a decade ago. And then this spring in March, I moved back home, and I've been here pretty much ever since. So it's been about 8 months now. This is the longest stretch I've been at home in about a decade. Between then and now, I went to college in New Jersey with Melody, and then I lived in Philly after that. And then I had just moved to Boston for a couple months before work from home started. And my parents were like, come home. And I was like, okay, maybe for a month. And then here I am. It's been 8 months. I'm still here. But it certainly has been an adjustment, right? There are certain comforts of being at home. I think, for many of you, if you haven't had as many years since you left home, it might be like, ugh, I'm still stuck here. But for me, it was very much like, okay, I'm going back to the womb. Like I get to go back to that really safe and cozy and comfortable place. But I found, that it was both easier in some ways and more difficult in some ways. Easier in that I have a really good kind of like friendship relationship with my parents and my brother that I'm really grateful for. But also harder, of course. It's like I felt like I was degenerating in my ability to adult after coming home. So we'll talk. I'm sure I'll share a little bit more about this as I talk with Melody and talk to you guys tonight. But just kind of like the two key things I want to share with you all to reflect on. Whatever your experience is right now, whatever your season is and going back home, 2 ways to think about this season is, first of all, what were the things from campus or from being at Emory, what were the things that really made you happy and made you tick? And how can you replicate some of those things at home? And then on the flip side, what are the things that make being at home special? And what can you kind of treasure and uniquely do during this time? So both of those things, I think, to reflect on and to help you make your time at home a little bit more intentional and a little bit more meaningful, rather than, like I felt like for a long time, just like rolling around at home like a baby and trying to find direction. So that's just a brief spiel to get us started, but happy to share more.
All right, thanks for the brief spiel. I loved when I was talking with you earlier to hear about the ways that you connected with your family sometimes and then also gave time to yourself. Do you have any examples for that you would like to share with people, and how meaningful or helpful it is to have a both and approach to family time?
Yeah, definitely. I'm just trying to think. So for me personally, one thing that was actually really great was being with my family through this whole crazy election season, and just being able to have more open dialogue with my parents and to dialogue more kind of as equals and talk through both things that we agreed on and disagreed on, kind of through that whole time. So I feel like we really got to know each other on a deeper level. And so I'm grateful for that. But of course, I had to set boundaries to not become totally overwhelmed with having those kinds of conversations with them, or just like to be super, submerged in that political atmosphere for so long. Luckily, we're kind of emerging out of that, but it was certainly an important period of time to have time for myself too. And then, some very basic things is like, again, every family's dynamic is different, right? But once I was home, it was easy for, my parents would cook, they would grocery shop. I was stuck in the suburbs and just trying not to get COVID. So I was just at home all the time. And I realized, what were the things that I missed about adult life, right? Some very basic things, of course, seeing people, and that's a bit harder unless it's virtual, but really basic things like grocery shopping. I love grocery stores. I love grocery shopping. I really love being able to cook and try new recipes. And so it was also kind of setting those boundaries of like, okay, I'm back at home, but actually I'm happier taking more agency over some of these things than just sliding back into being fed by my parents. And so a lot of it was like, hey, I've moved back home, but I'm going to start like grocery shopping for us and cooking for us on weekends, and like just having some clearer roles and like how I was going to interact with my family differently than I had before. So for you, even if you're a freshman and you feel like you haven't even had a chance to be away from home for very long, think about ways that you can make your experience at home feel different than when you were in high school, so that it can still feel like you're marking a new season in your life instead of, you know, kind of reverting back to whatever high school you and high school life at home was like.
Those are great examples. Thank you for sharing that. Christy, I was wondering if you could share, since this is a Christian event, anything you've experienced in terms of trying to do church virtually, because a lot of churches are virtual, some are not, depending on where you are in the States or internationally. But yeah, what was or what is your experience with church and your experience with faith? Has God taught you anything during this time?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I will say a few things. I will say that my experience with church in this pandemic, first of all, it's difficult. I will say that community really helps to keep me sane. And I will also say that I think Christian community is a space where you can exercise your creativity. So first of all, in that it's difficult, it is easy to stay in bed when you don't have to like get dressed and show up at church, and your friends may or may not judge you for being there or not, right? And you might miss out on whatever, getting lunch together. So super hard to get up for church on Sundays, I find. I love sleeping, and I am very bad at going to bed on time. But it's difficult, and I'll just be frank about that. It's hard for me to like get my sleep schedule in order. Like Courtney was saying, it's great to have a routine. I've never had a routine in my life. I'm like the most routineless person I've ever met. Really hard to get that on track. So it's difficult, but I will say that community keeps me sane. So serving and participating in community, I started attending a small group, and that's been something really great to look forward to, especially in working. I know it's a bit different than student life, but in working, it was just easy to work throughout my evening or not to have good work boundaries, just being at home. And so, you know, having small group gave me like a clear cutoff, at least one day a week. And then also, community through my youth group kids on Sundays. I work with them on Sunday afternoons, and they also really helped keep me on track and keep me accountable, right? I was like, you know, I can't be a hypocrite out here, like counseling and preaching to these kids if I don't have a spiritual life of my own to really set that foundation. And so I would say the community has really helped to keep me sane and keep me on track, because it's been so hard to just kind of show up and attend service. And then lastly, in terms of the creativity, I know like doing Bible study every week or doing these events over Zoom can get really tiring, and your eyes, you feel like your eyes just are going to fall out of your head. And so I've been thinking about like, okay, what are creative ways to continue engaging in Christian community, things that are not through a screen, right? So as basic as like, instead of, texting my friends about things, or just blogging or writing emails to process, right, doing a lot more hand journaling. I've never been as consistent with journaling before. I've become a lot more consistent recently in this season. And then also thinking about ways, using snail mail, using like physical arts and crafts to do things with my youth group kids. And you guys can think about that too with your Christian community, like write letters to your friends, like, or, make Melody spend part of her budget on like mailing you guys all some craft supplies. You can all do crafts together, but like virtually.
Spoiler, we're doing that.
That's awesome. No, yeah. That's great. But I think like just like find more opportunities, right, to go outside of Zoom and to remember that we are physical beings in physical space, just far apart from each other. So I don't know if that's helpful, but those are just some of the things that come to mind right away.
Thanks so much for sharing, Christy. It's always good to know that you're not alone. And that's kind of like the the title of our event tonight, Home But Not Alone. Even though we're separate from each other, we're not alone in our experiences. We're not alone as siblings in Christ. And we are certainly not alone because God is with us all the time. Does anyone have any questions for Christy that they would like to ask? I'm gonna give it 10 more seconds.
What's your favorite dish to cook?
That's a great question. I haven't done this probably in a month or so, but I will say the few times that I like made noodles by hand, that has been very gratifying. It's not hard. it's like really nice to just like knead dough for a little bit. It's like get something out of your system. But it like handmade noodles are really great, and yeah, it's pretty easy.
All right, so with that, I'm going to end the recording. Thank you so much, Christie.
Can I give one final tip?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
One thing that's been hugely transformational for me has been redoing my room. So this is not the house that we lived in when I was in high school, so I never really fully settled in here. And now that I'm at home for a long time, after months of like sitting on the carpet, sitting in random places in the house, my parents were like, you should set up like proper furniture in your room. So I finally did that, and it's been great. That might not be applicable to you, but along the same vein of like, think about college self at home, maybe that you want that to be different from your high school self at home. It might even be rearranging your room, like redecorating it a little bit, shifting things around. So when you're in your room and you don't feel like you're stuck in the twilight zone of high school forever, and you're kind of like taking back your space physically, and that will help you reorient mentally and spiritually as well. So just something for you to take away and think about if you're feeling kind of stuck. I
love that you added that. That's amazing. The twilight zone of high school forever. Yeah, we don't want to stay stuck in that. Thank you so much, Christie. I'm going to stop the recording now.